Okay. Just recognizing that those of you who are watching have probably been going crazy figuring out why you're getting any volume from my voice. Apologies, I had the mute on. Just a recap, we're just simply taking a few moments for silent breath. So thanks for being here this morning. This is Journey Home Meditation, and this is our morning practice. I think I think learning the ability to find silence and stillness in a practice has been really beneficial because I think in the beginning of learning and hearing about these practices and these things, people talk about the value of silence or the value of stillness, and I could never find that because the world is really loud. It seems that there's always something making sound, drawing my attention to it, and my body seems to, or used to seem to, always want to find movement. As soon as I would start to enter into a meditation practice, all of a sudden I had an itch here, or I had to stand up, or I had to pee, or I just needed to stretch something. It seems like there was always something that was trying to get me to keep moving. And I identified so much with my discomfort that I would be kind of stuck in that constant need to change something about what I was doing. And so my mind would, because I identified so strongly with the mind, always, I had some adverse childhood experiences, as they say, in the world of psychology. And as such, I was able to survive those things, and I attributed that mostly to my intellect, my ability to intellectualize things, find solutions, and be creative or even deceptive or whatever I needed in that moment. I would use my mind to create my sense of safety, create my situations of safety. I wasn't a particularly strong kid or adept at fighting, so when bullies would want to fight me, I could use my quick wit to either win them over with humor or humiliate them in front of everyone else in such a way that I would win. And winning in that case meant not getting pummeled, staying safe. I could also use my intellect to decipher very quickly in very short time who was safe for me to be around when I was home or when I was at some social functions as a kid. Could figure out those things, those patterns that other people had that would indicate whether or not they were safe in that moment or for that day. And so I greatly identified with my mind. And also because of this, I could use my mind to rationalize just about anything that I needed or wanted to get what I thought I needed. So this helped greatly in maintaining a drug addiction for a lot of years. I could intellectually rationalize why it was okay for me to poison my body to protect my mind. I could also rationalize being in unhealthy relationships or being an unhealthy person in relationships because of the justifications for anger or whatever it is. And finding this practice has been it's been a hard-earned thing for me, for myself, to receive silence and stillness in my body. I think I didn't know for a long time that my high energy output, my prolific creativity for music or for art or for poetry, my hyper focus on those things, my ability to speak in public ways, to be a spokesperson for certain, social justice movements or whatever it has all been sort of an outcrop or a byproduct of my incessant chatter inside of my body and my head. The low level of pain in my body pretty much all of the time, meeting the intellect's ability to rationalize, justify, or create an injustice of anything has kept me pretty much going nonstop, and that's been kind of the fuel for my social tank for most of my life. So people would see that, and they would see a very seemingly secure and confident person, which oftentimes gets mistaken for strength or for fortitude in some way. But the reality internally was always very different for me than the external world. The reality internally was that of insecurity, of pain, of fear, of judgment, of all of these things that I believed that if the world saw those things in me, they would not want to be near me, because people liked the very gregarious, very charismatic, very loud part of my personality. And so the more quiet aspects of myself were never really fine-tuned or honed as much as my ability to take space and speak loudly. This practice of finding those subtle voices inside of my body has allowed me to really cherish and honor and develop that subtlety inside of my own internal communication. And that has shown me how much I actually really, really appreciate and need quiet spaces and non-interruptive communication, and how much my nervous system is exhausted from the non-stop provocation of the external world. And really, it comes down to just a couple options at that point. When you are feeling so overwhelmed all the time by the world, your options are either withdraw entirely from the world, or create in yourself a mechanism for safety within that world. If I can't be in a silent world or a still world, the world is always moving, the world is always making sound, then I can find that solace internally, that silence and stillness can be my center, the base from which I work, the place that I can come back to in any moment, just for a few breaths, recharging and resetting my system so that I can continue to participate in that world. Some people choose the former. They go to monasteries. They go to isolated spaces. They become hermits or shut-ins, or all these different levels and layers in which we meet that need. There's all these possibilities to do that. Some people withdraw deeper into addictions, into drugs, into alcohol, whatever silences that thing in their mind. For myself, cocaine was always a very quick way to silence the chatter of my mind. I didn't do cocaine to be social. I was already social. I did cocaine alone in a bathroom for hours at a time because it was the only thing that I had found to that point that actually stopped the voices in my head, the nonstop, incessant chatter of self-criticism and judgment and fear and anxiety and all of those things. So finding this practice of discovering that there is stillness in my body and there's silence in my body, there's silence in my mind, is a life-sustaining practice for me. And that's why I share this practice as often as I can. And I'm finding more in this world, we are very cleverly drawn into other people's anxieties. We are very cleverly drawn into other people's need for attention. See, we all have needs are non-negotiable. We have needs and they have to be met. And if they're not met, then we aren't functioning healthily. We aren't functioning wholly. And functioning on, you can drive a car with 3 wheels if you really need to. You can drive without windshield wipers. You can drive with one headlight or no headlights. The car still functions, but it's not functioning optimally. And it's like that with our needs. If we don't get our basic needs met, we aren't going to function optimally. And one of those needs, I think, is a need for positive affirmation, validation, and attention. It makes us feel safe, and it makes us feel part of a group, and being part of a group, being accepted into a group, whether it's a group of 2 or 3 people or a group of 2 or 3,000 people, it gives you a feeling of safety, comfort, and identity. And I think those are needs. When people don't have those things, when people don't have safety, when they don't have that acceptance or validation, whether internally or externally, they function from a place of defensiveness. We function from a place of defensiveness. When I feel unsafe, I fortify myself and become defensive. And that defensiveness oftentimes looks very weaponized. It looks very antagonistic, and it looks very macho in my case, or like chest puffy, like, how dare you, who you think you are? You think you're going to come around here? That old trope. But for each of us, it looks different. To go internal into that defensive space can look very different for each of us. Some of us puff our chest, some of us close down and close in. But recognizing that in any moment I am being drawn into the realm of the hungry ghosts in the Buddhist world is this place where people, there's many different ways that they tell this metaphor, but one of them is that they have a hunger, a deep hunger in their stomach, but their mouth is very big, but their throat is so small, and they can't swallow food to get it down into their belly. They can put it in their mouth, but they can't nourish themselves with it. There's many different ways that the hungry ghost functions, and the basic premise is it is an insatiable hunger. People that function with an insatiable hunger. It's been used as a metaphor for addiction, and I think it could be used analogous with any person who's not getting their basic needs met. And when we talk about social and emotional needs, we often judge those most harshly, most critically. And I think that we see ourselves in every other thing that we do, in every other person. And we judge ourselves so harshly for not having our emotional needs met because we see that as a failure of our personality to attract the people in our lives that meet those needs for us. We are just not attractive enough. We are not lovable enough. We are not indispensable enough. We are disposable. We are unloved, unlovable. We are unattractive because there's a need that we have that's not being met. That need could lead to the symptoms of loneliness or the symptoms of social anxiety or the symptoms of depression, the symptoms of rage. But there's a need that's not being met, and we internally judge ourselves as not being good enough, so we see that in others and we harshly judge that in others. Who do you think you are? You know, when we say things like, you should be grateful, When someone expresses a need, we say, you don't sound very grateful to me for what you have. And we've learned that the expression of need is the expression of lack of gratitude, and it's not the same thing. You can be grateful that you have a car and still need gas. You can be grateful that you have a house and still need electricity or water. Whatever it may be, the recognition of a need. That's the way I think we have before us to meet a need instead of criticizing what we see as a desire or as an ingratitude. And that's really what I wanted to focus on today, just for a little bit, just to think about, like, when I meet others in this world today, I'm going to meet people with unmet needs. And when I see them expressing those unmet needs in ways that I judge or criticize as unhealthy or understand as unhealthy, the way that I interact with that person is the way I'm interacting with my own unmet need. How can I meet my need and you meet your need in that same interaction? How can I come to you and say in this moment, I think I have a need for silence, when you have a need to scream? How can we accommodate both? And that's what I'm pondering today. How do I meet my need for silence when the world needs to scream? Let's do a quick poem before we close out today. This is from Bell Hook's Appalachian Elegy, Poetry in Place. This is number 29. We've worked from the beginning, doing one at a time, so this is 29. Softly treading black bear, leaving a trace, green crushed under innocence, just for now breaking free. Leaving forest for hill and mountain, fleeing coonskin caps, memories of renegade red men running, fleeing Daniel Boone, white wrath, all nature slaughtered in the colonizing wake, animals abandoned, alone, untouched, sheer good fortune guides one bear away. A gift of time with no boundaries, for soon hunters come. Soon comes dying. Soon we are captives. Wow. Sheer good fortune guides one bear away. I love the way Bell Hooks seamlessly tells us these beautiful stories of these other beings in her childhood, these existences that exist within her existence of Appalachia. She's been focusing on horses the last few pieces, and now she's talking about the bear. And the bear is such an amazing creature for human myth and lore, and we use it as such an analogy for wildness, for that untamable or untamed spirit. And the way that she's talking about the bear here, kind of this great predator, this great being. And bears really aren't actually that good predators. They're not very good at it. They're loud and they're clunky and they're big and they need to eat a lot. So most bears eat a strongly vegetarian diet because they're not good hunters. They're just forceful and they're big. They're not like cats. Cats are phenomenal predators. Bears are just more existing by their sheer size and strength. And she says, softly treading black bear, leaving a trace. Green crushed under innocence. The mere existence of this thing is innocent, but it's leaving this trace that's going to be followed and it's going to cause harm for them in their future. And then she talks about just this onslaught of colonization against wildness, wild things. I need to provide. I need to give power to the screen. The screen needs power. By the power of Grayskull, I have the power. There we go, for all you He-Man lovers of my generation. But then that ending, sheer good fortune guides one bear away. A gift of time with no boundaries, for soon hunters come, soon comes dying, soon we are captives. It's a good reminder, memento mori, soon comes dying. You know, the use talking about time with no boundaries and soon comes dying, soon we are captives. This concept of being wrapped in time, I think time is God to the dying. When you are dying, time is God. It is that either merciful or wrathful thing that you are contending with. To those of us who don't know that we're dying, time is kind of meaningless. We blank out for 10 minutes of our driving. 10 minutes can go by on the highway. You don't even know where you've been. You just completely were gone for 10 minutes. But when you are lying in bed dying and you have just those few waking moments between the sleep of your samadhi, of your going into dying, 10 minutes with the person you love, that's a long time. That's a long time. So, time with no boundaries. But soon hunters come, soon comes dying, soon we are captives. Thanks, bell hooks. Well, I want to open it up for discussion. Do you have anything that you'd like to share about today's practice?
I just think it's healthy for me to remember that, as hard as it is for me to create that silent space in me, even if I can't get to complete silence, it's still just really helpful to, anytime there's a feeling of overwhelm, to try to come back to that and try to create that, or even just taking a couple breaths. It's just helpful to remember that.
Yeah, it's almost like to use like a modern analogy. It's almost like every once in a while you just got to plug your phone in, even if it's just for a few minutes. It's not like it's recharging in that way, but just to remember, like I may not be able to exist in this level of silence all the time, but touching back in, it does reset something in me. It gives me back some grounding, and I kind of thinking of it more of like a revolutionary kind of perspective of like I'm reclaiming. I am recovering part of myself that's kind of been taken without my will. When I can find that silence, those few breaths, it's almost a revolutionary act of like you don't get to take every bit from me all the time. You know, there's I'm coming back to myself. This is that part of ourselves that like we have been sold clothing that gives us identity that takes us away from who that is. We've been sold the way that we smell, the way that we cut our hair, the car that we drive, the house that we have, the job that we have. All of those levels of identity are this external thing, right? Like this way we really polish up our own mirror, we shine ourselves up, we adjust our human suit. That whole world is kind of all centered around those things. That ability to bring that attention away from that facade and into the internal landscape and to be there comfortably and in love without need for shopping or drugs or identity or sex or anything, just for a few moments, I think that's revolutionary, personally. But maybe that's just my identity needing to identify with revolutionary things because that's what I've been so interested in for so long. Maybe it has nothing to do with that. Maybe it's liberation beyond liberation politics. But
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like just things seem like they need such an urgent solution, and just remembering like, I can just actually just like keep breathing, and you know, the solution might even just present itself on its own, or maybe this thing that seems urgent, just presenting itself is enough for it, or just, yeah, I mean, what's gonna happen if I don't, come up with a solution right now for this problem? What's gonna happen if I just keep breathing? Like, I'm gonna be okay, actually. I mean, you know, in like 99% of situations at least, you don't have to be like going with pure adrenaline reaction and trying to like, I mean, generally we're gonna be okay, and we can get a glass of water, and I yeah, I don't know. There just seems to be all these crises happening all the time, and yeah, just coming back to breathing helps.
yeah, it's that line in the poem from today. Sheer good fortune guides one bear away, a gift of time with no boundaries. That's that gift of time, that space between the urgency of immediacy. Like this, you need to fix this now. You need to do this now. We need you now. I need to make this decision now. What am I going to have for dinner? I don't know. I need to know now. It's that thing of asking a kindergartner what you want to be when you grow up. That pressure that we've had since we were 5 years old of like, you have to know now what you know. I think that's maybe the introduction of anxiety right there. Or maybe it was that stupid game we played as a kid where like you have to get all the pieces in place before it erupts and it sends all your pieces flying. And so now you're racing against the clock and you're like, oh, if I don't do this, I'm going to fail. I don't know. But that gift of time with no boundaries. That's a great thing to think about. Like, what does that even look like? And I know for me, and I sound like a freaking salesman for meditation here, but for me, I've been in meditative practices where all of a sudden there are no boundaries at all. I'm in this space and I feel that there's no end to who I am and who all of existence is. And there's like this permeable sense of my whole body becomes permeable. And I'm just kind of floating in this emptiness with all things, and time really is irrelevant, and space really is irrelevant. Who I am and who you are is irrelevant. Like we're all there. I've been in a room full of people. I used to guide meditations at Club Northwest, and I would have a room full of people. We had like 60 some people for one of our practices that we did in the room meditating together. And I was able to, in that moment, get into a space where I have full awareness. I'm in a space with all of these souls, all these beings. But who I am and who each of them are was irrelevant, but we were all there. We were all there without any recognition of those permeable boundaries of the material world. You know, it was just like, wait a minute, we're swimming in an ooze, man, like all the time. Quantum physics says that there's nothing touches each other. Everything has this boundary of emptiness around it. Every atom, every particle has a boundary of emptiness around it. And so that means that like we're swimming in an ooze of existence right now. Getting into that space just for a moment is that gift of no time. It's like, okay, all right, whatever happens is going to happen. Let's just take a breath. And then, of course, we come out of it, and right away I think about, where's my keys? Where's my phone? Of course. And there's no judgment for that. I think there's a lot of people that want to judge the material world as being insignificant. And it's like, no, of course I need my keys to move my car. I need my car to move my body. I need my body to go home. It's that Ram Dass thing. He says, we're all one, but that's my TV and those are your dishes. So I think recognizing without judgment is one of those gifts of no boundaries, even if just for a moment. Judgment has its place too. But well, thanks for being here today. I'm glad you made it in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
And I'm glad that anybody out there listening today made it in as well. Maybe I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see. All right. Hariom. Don't forget to like, share, all the smashing buttons thing that every other streamer says. Do all the things that people say to do. But please do consider engaging with this content by commenting. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your perspective on these things. There's so much I want to know about who I am that only you can tell me through telling me who you are. So that's how we can do this together. So please engage. Thanks so much. Love you all.